Greetings, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. I'm your host, Patrick Gunnels, joining you from Houston, Texas, this March 16th, 2024 at 12:11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And I'm going to be working smart, not hard today, doing audio recordings of Brian Cates and Seth Keshel, getting back into the swing of things. My lovely bride is on the mend, walking around, doing work, wrangling children, all the stuff that mommies do. And so I am more free to do all this stuff, and I think you're going to love it. Let's start with a little bit of news that I'm just going to be revealing to all you people who watch Reading Epic Threads. We are coming up upon a hiatus for production of Angel Paste. Don't you worry, we got supplies right now, but when the supplies we have right now, some, I don't know, a few hundred bottles, when those supplies run out, you're going to need to hang on to those probably for a couple of months. So if you're running low, you're going to want to go to epicthreads.tv. That is the easiest place to get it, and use promo code Shapiro. Prying a dollar from my grasping hands. You get $150 or more from the epicthreads.tv website. Remember, epicthreads.tv. It streamlines the process when you order from there. Go there, and if you order $150 or more, you get free shipping. So don't forget, will be going on hiatus when this current supply runs out. I just want to tell the viewers of Reading Epic Threads right now, let's keep this in the family for the time being. I'm probably going to be revealing this on Badlands as well fairly soon, but I want you guys to know first, you being the people who have really, really made my ability to work so good. So go get your Angel Paste while it lasts. We will be on hiatus, probably for a couple of months. It will come back eventually. We just need to work out a few things when it comes to, division of labor and all that other stuff that happens when you have a new fledgling business. So the Angel Paste supply we have right now is it for a while. Come get it right now at epicthreads.tv. And we got more stuff coming, so stay tuned. All right, this one is from briancates.substack.com. Here we go. Trump's takeover of the RNC continues, much to the horror of Conservative Inc. The Uniparty was very sure they'd stop Trump long before it got to this point. From leading report on Twitter, breaking. Immediately following her election as co-chair of the RNC, Laura Trump and new chair Michael Whatley are firing an estimated 60 RNC staffers. Those being asked to resign include 5 members of the senior staff, and some vendor contracts are expected to be cut. So, less than a week after Mitt Romney's niece, Ronna McDaniel, was forced out of the RNC chair, and Michael Whatley and Laura Trump were respectively elected as chair and co-chair, what Politico describes as a bloodbath ensued at the RNC. Quote, Donald Trump's newly installed leadership team at the Republican National Committee on Monday began the process of pushing out dozens of officials, according to 2 people close to the Trump campaign and the RNC. All told, the expectation is that more than 60 RNC staffers who work across the political communications and data departments will be let go. Those being asked to resign include 5 members of the senior staff, though the names were not made public. Additionally, some vendor contracts are expected to be cut, end quote. The Politico report later states, quote, Trump's campaign took over operational control of the RNC on Monday. On Friday, former North Carolina GOP chair Michael Whatley was elected the RNC's new chair, and Trump daughter-in-law Lara Trump was elected as co-chair. Both had Trump's endorsement. Additionally, Trump's senior campaign advisor Chris LaCivita was named as the RNC's new chief of staff. End quote. The smart take at the Conservative Inc. outlets and pundits that I still keep an eye on these days about the bloodbath at the RNC yesterday is that the Trump cult is continuing its advance in seizing control of new ground in the ongoing civil war between the MAGA America First Wing and the GOP America Last Wing inside the GOP. I've spent several hours now watching the people who've been desperate to save their conservative Inc. brand from Trump melting down over the latest developments as they watch their precious RNC slip from their grasp after so many decades. To paraphrase the consensus that's forming, I'd state it this way. These firings mean nothing. Trump's been running our party for years now. These are all people that wouldn't take a loyalty oath. It's a purge of people who won't kiss the Trump ring. The cult running our party for years is consolidating its grip. Think about how logically incoherent that hot take is. The Mitt Romney clones are upset. The Chamber of Commerce, country club GOP types who have run the RNC for longer than I've been alive are beginning to realize they've failed to stop the Trump cult. This was never supposed to happen. It never should have gotten to this point. But here we are. And here we'll stay. 2 years ago, the McConnell, McCain, Bush wing of the RNC was sure the Trump cancer could be excised and removed, and they'd be getting back to uniparty business as usual by this year's 2024 election. Trump would have been safely neutralized, and somebody else would be cruising to the GOP nomination. Life was going to be just fantastic for them. So, right now, these people in the McConnell, McCain, Bush wing of the RNC and in the conservative Inc. media are experiencing what I guess you could call a waking nightmare. Well, good. These people deserve everything that's happening to them. Allow me to explain why. Conservative Inc. instantly grasped what a threat to them Donald Trump was. There was a reason the utterly fake conservative Inc. of the uniparty forever wars machine instantly perceived Trump as a mortal threat to expose them and their deceptive brand, and they were right to fear him because he's spent 8 years now since he came down that golden escalator doing exactly what they were deeply afraid he would do. Expose them all for what and who they really are. Think back to that faraway time of yore, back to 2015. Who were the conservative, incorporated, leading lights, the thought leaders, the most influential network talking heads, pundits, authors, and columnists? Who were millions and millions of Americans listening to and reading and gaining their sense of what was going on? Wasn't it these people? National Review Online, Fox News, The Weekly Standard, columnists like Ann Coulter, Mona Charen, Rich Lowry, Jonah Goldberg, Ben Shapiro, Stephen Hayes, Bill Kristol. What's happened to them since 2015? What happened to the amount of influence they used to have? Or, more succinctly, what did Trump troll them into doing to themselves? What is he still trolling them into doing as they stand in the smoking ruins of their once proud and lofty conservative brands? The Weekly Standard shut down. NRO is a shell of its former self, and Fox News ratings are in the toilet. There will be no coming back from this for Conservative Inc. Trump has utterly gutted them. Let me explain why these conservative brands needed to be destroyed, why it was vitally important to our country that this happened to them. Conservative Inc. was very, very good at its real job, which was to keep the right side political half of this country docile, complacent, and trapped in the illusory matrix where the Republican versus Democrat fake puppet show was real. They never fought for us. Not only were they not fighting for us, but Conservative Inc. was a vital control tool of the uniparty forever wars machine. They never had anything but contempt for us. But they did manage to fool millions of us until Trump showed up and became the face of our movement. And they were forced to start telling us what they really thought about us. The shock of their being trolled into doing that cannot be underestimated during this currently ongoing Great Awakening. The conservative Inc. and the progressive Inc. wings of the media are run by the same uniparty. They've been engaged in a massive psychological operation against the rest of us for decades now. Trump pulled back the curtain and help us see all of it. These days, nothing is more freaking infuriating to me than watching the Bushites like Karl Rove and these other conservative Inc. talking heads chant the name of Reagan like a mantra as they lament what Trump is doing to Reagan conservatism. Is anybody still falling for that bullshit at this point? So, understand what is really happening here. The Bush, McCain, Romney wing of the RNC is losing its grip on the party. They spent years trying to prevent what is now happening. Imagine, if you will, how many years Conservative Inc. spent keeping millions of patriotic Americans focused on the completely fake civil war within the GOP between the conservatives and the moderates. The Paul Ryan, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell wing of the GOP was supposedly at perpetual war with the conservative wing of the party, and it was all fake. But then the Great Awakening started. And all of a sudden, these smarmy, fake pricks who'd been fooling us with a phony puppet show suddenly started facing a real fight for control of the GOP. Trump did not create this movement, and he's only temporarily in a leadership position. He will pass that leadership role on to someone else in a few years. But the RNC leadership that had used Conservative Inc. to keep the American public's attention laser focused on the completely fake inter-party civil war between moderates and conservatives was ill-equipped to fend off a real fight for control, a fight Trump has been guiding and leading openly since 2018. They tried to prevent millions of Americans like me, trapped in their illusory Conservative Inc. matrix, from waking up and realizing they'd been tricked into supporting the vile Bush presidencies, multiple wars, and the looting of their own country by the uniparty Forever Wars machine. They failed. They failed to stop the Great Awakening. They couldn't keep Conservative Inc. from being exposed and toppled. They are now fighting a desperate rear guard action as they try to conserve what little of their former kingdom they have left. Pun absolutely intended. They were all laughing at us behind our backs before Trump came down that golden escalator. They're not laughing now. They're terrified of us. And they should be. And that is the latest from the brilliant Brian Cates. Check him out at briancates.substack.com. Just a reminder, the supply of angel paste we have right now will be the last for a while. Angel paste will be going on temporary hiatus, possibly a month, possibly two. Get your angel paste now. Go to epicthreads.tv. That's epicthreads.tv. Use promo code Shapiro to pry $1 from my grasping hands. And if you order more than $150 worth of stuff, you get free shipping. Angel paste. Supplies are limited. Get yours now. Next, we're going to go to my friend Seth Keshel. All right, let's do one from Seth Keshel as I get back into the swing of things. This is from skeshel.substack.com. How would the 2024 race change with a fair census and electoral college map? Topic: Elections, by Captain Seth Keshel. 1 year ago this month, I crafted a very time-consuming piece of analytical research outlining the manipulation of the decennial United States Census, particularly those conducted in 2010 and 2020. In that article, link in this article, I outlined my belief that the manipulation of the Electoral College has given a generic Democrat presidential nominee an improper advantage of as many as 13 electoral votes before the assessment of swing states. Another article, link here, I wrote the same month outlines What I believe, in consideration of electoral engineering, are the four most likely Trump pathways to victory in 2024. I have arrived at the conclusion depicted below that Trump is all but guaranteed 176 electoral votes and Biden 191, just for drawing breath and being on the ballots at the same time. While I believe North Carolina is in range to be Georgia'd, it is an increasingly imposing task for the Biden camp now that it has to overcome voter ID, a shift in Black and suburban voters toward Trump, and polling that is exactly in line with where I would expect North Carolina to be after 15 years of a pro-Republican Party registration trend in over 90% of its counties. That means Trump is most likely entering Election Day sitting on 235 electoral votes, with Biden at 191 and leaning toward 211, with the stretch states of Virginia, New Mexico, and Maine tipping into his column, which I think would only be won by Trump in 2024 in an absolute blowout, thanks to the problems caused by urban corruption, automatic voter registration, and reckless mail-in balloting. The most expedient pathway to a Trump victory is to hold the core 235 and to win Georgia and Pennsylvania, two states that are slam dunk Trump states to anyone who knows how to read authentic political indicators, but are in peril thanks to the issues listed above with the stretch states. Georgia is a must win in all of my victory scenarios, as all other swing states listed in the graphic are fundamentally harder Republican wins in the modern elections era than the Peach State losing, or rather being forbidden to win Pennsylvania, likely rules out its political cousin Michigan too, and requires combinations involving the other 5 states in the swing category, and Minnesota is a long shot of long shots thanks to the actions of its Democrat trifecta. What would an authentic electoral map with census corrections look like, awarding North Carolina, Texas, and Alaska to Trump, and Virginia, New Mexico, and the 2 electors belonging to Maine's statewide victor to Biden? The map above reflects an adjusted electoral college scoring matrix reflecting fair balances to state populations, not manipulated ones produced by the U.S. Census Bureau to disenfranchise reliably Republican states, not only regarding presidential races, but in their proper representation in the U.S. House. Here are the changes, conservatively estimated based on legitimate population rankings. Solid Trump: Florida +1, Tennessee +1, Utah +1, Idaho +1. Trump pink slate: Texas +1, solid Biden. California -5, New York -1, Massachusetts -1, Rhode Island -1. Swing: Arizona +1, Georgia +1, Nevada +1. Giving the core 235 Trump states 5 more electoral votes and subtracting 8 from Biden's presumed 211 puts the tally at Trump 240 to Biden 203. That takes an advantage of 24 electoral votes for Trump and stretches it to 37, a swing of 13 electoral votes accomplished by straightening out the House advantage brought about by a corrupt census. 3 states in the swing column, which all would have gone to Trump in fair races by no less than 7.5% each in 2020, are 3 electoral votes fatter collectively. Biden at 211 under the current scoring system wins with Georgia 16, Pennsylvania 19, Michigan 15, and 1 of Arizona 11 or Wisconsin 10. Biden at 203 under an accurate system has just 266 or 264 electoral votes in the same scenario, not enough to win. He would need to win both Arizona and Wisconsin, or Nevada if he could carry just 1 of Arizona and Wisconsin. Carrying neither Arizona nor Wisconsin would put him up the creek without a paddle. Georgia 17, Pennsylvania 19, Michigan 15, and 1 of Arizona 12 or Wisconsin 10. Trump, on the other hand, still finds his quickest path to victory with Georgia and Pennsylvania, putting him at 276, but is afforded more options for victory without Pennsylvania or Michigan because Georgia plus Arizona guarantees at least a 269 tie with Nebraska's 2nd congressional district or one of Nevada or New Hampshire available for a victory. Currently, Georgia plus Arizona with Trump at just 235 to start yields only 262 electoral votes, and even winning Nevada puts Trump at only 268. Conclusion: My estimates on the census rigging are light, giving benefit of the doubt to decaying industrial states and massive states with a population exodus, which are heavily bloated by an illegal alien population feasting on blue state citizen theft. An additional swing of 13 electoral votes in the same fashion would have Trump starting at 245 and Biden at 195, requiring Biden to win Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin to eke out 275 electoral votes. The current makeup of the Electoral College reverses this situation entirely and forces Trump to pull what amounts to damn near a clean sweep of the Electoral College just to squeak by. The destruction, switching, and outright creation out of thin air of ballots is a symptom. Voter registration and census corruption are the root causes of our electoral maladies. And that is Seth Keshel. That's skeshel.substack.com, skeshel.substack.com. All right, now I'm going to do a bunch of Vox Day, and then we'll call it a day. Just a reminder, guys, Angel Paste is going on hiatus. After the current supply runs out, there's going to be an interruption in supply. So get your Angel Paste now. Go to epicthreads.tv. That's epicthreads.tv. Very important that you know that. Your skin will drink it up, etc., etc. Use promo code Shapiro. But yeah, there will be a significant delay after this current supply runs out. And it's a few hundred bottles left. So go ahead and get it. And I'll just leave it at that. Now let's check out Vox Day. This one is entitled, The Use of Female Speech Patterns. How communicating in a female manner tends to lower male status. One of the things that has become very clear over the past few days of discourse on this site is the fundamental difference between conventional male and female patterns of communications. These differences, which are readily visible even in the written format, are even more obvious when vocalized. Consider, by way of example, two extremes taken from some recent discussions here. Content aside, it probably would not even be necessary to label them to know which quote was written by a female commenter, and which was posted by a male commenter. Female. We really truly are trying to work out a full systematic description of all of this. I have done blog posts for decades on the experience of being a woman. We have done multiple sets of mosaic arc videos on it. There is an ongoing discussion on my Telegram channel /chat about it. And I have written, as Vox knows, extensively on the effects of feminism on women's ability to see their relationships with each other and men clearly. However, everything that you guys in Social Galactic and here have seen is reduced to a few comments on blog posts, which means no, of course I haven't explained it all or reduced it to a simple system. We're working on that. Okay, now male. The male comment says this. The thing with the SSH, sociosexual hierarchy, is that the socio and the sexual align. The male profiles are the same, whether among men or women. The guy who produces a male response to bravos among men produces a female reaction to bravos among women. Different reactions, obviously, but the profiles hold up. Female status in the social and romantic domains isn't consistent like this, at least according to the discussions. Intra and intersex impacts aren't totally unrelated, but not totally consistent either. There may be structural consistency, but if so, it isn't obvious behind so many moving parts. Observe the differences. 39.3 words per sentence versus 13.9 words per sentence. 5 neoparentheticals versus none. A disjointed flow broken up by constant attempts to clarify and explain versus a logical progression from one topic to the next. 6 self-references versus 0. About the only thing that is missing is the usual rhetorical questions. Now, the point here is not to criticize female modes of communication or to pronounce the superiority of one form over the other, but rather A, to accept that these differences exist, and B, to use them as a means of analyzing male status. And what I have observed is that the lower the male status, the more likely he is to use one or more female modes of communication. These include talking too much, talking too fast, interrupting frequently, and talking over the other party's speech, inserting parentheticals and clarifications, offering unrequested explanations, going into multiple levels of detail, asking rhetorical questions, posing questions to which the answer is already necessarily implied, seeking clarifications and definitions, self-references, making the interlocutor, the subject, leaping from tangent to tangent, using a sharp, high-pitched tone of voice, conversational aggressiveness, and redirecting the conversation toward oneself. No doubt, there are more of these speech patterns worthy of note, and perhaps some of you can add a few of them in the comments as they happen to occur to you. But the important takeaway is the observation that the more female a man's form of speech tends to be, the lower his SSH status is perceived to be, and therefore, if you wish to rise up within the SSH, it is advisable to adopt more masculine speech patterns while eliminating the female patterns from your communications with men and women alike. You are simply never going to be perceived by anyone as a strong, silent Clint Eastwood type if your communication style can reasonably be described as Chatty Cathy. That's the latest from Vox Day, and I'm going to get a couple more of those under our belts because learning about the sociosexual hierarchy is obviously really good. The piece that he does, When a 5 is a 10, is short. I'm going to skip it. But let's see here. A Tale of Two Heathers. That sounds pretty cool. A Violation of the Pecking Order. I'm going to try a Historical Sigma. All right, let's try that. So, I mean, the concept of the Sigma male is not well understood. So let's talk about it. A Historical Sigma. This is from sigmagame.substack.com. Wellington is one of the classic Sigmas of history. Arthur Wellesley, the British Field Marshal and first Duke of Wellington, was arguably the greatest military general of all time. He not only had a brilliant and unblemished military career in which he defeated many of Napoleon's great marshals, but defeated Napoleon himself at Waterloo. At Castalia Library, we've been publishing daily excerpts from the exceptional Studies in the Napoleonic Wars by the great military historian Sir Charles Oman. And one passage in particular stood out about Wellington's unshakable self-confidence. Quote, a conversation which he held with Croker just before his departure chances to have been preserved in the latter's diary under the date June 14, 1808. After a long reverie, he was asked the subject of his thoughts. To say the truth, he replied, I am thinking of the French I am going to fight. I have not seen them since the campaign at Flanders, 1794-1795, when they were capital soldiers, and a dozen years of victory under Bonaparte must have made them better still. 'Tis enough to make one thoughtful. But though they may overwhelm me, I don't think they will outmaneuver me. First, because I am not afraid of them, as everyone else seems to be, and secondly, because if all I hear about their system is true, I think it is a false one against steady troops. I suspect all the continental armies are half beaten before the battle begins. I, at least, will not be frightened beforehand. End quote. The astonishing success that Wellington achieved throughout the Peninsular War is difficult to grasp in its entirety. He was outnumbered and outgunned in almost every single battle he commanded. If he had made one single mistake, if he had suffered one single defeat, it is almost certain that the British Parliament would have forced him to withdraw and surrender both Portugal and Spain to the forces of the Imperial French. And while he made a number of questionable decisions over the 6 years he commanded the Allied forces in Spain and Portugal, and many of those decisions were openly criticized at the time, what ultimately mattered is that he never lost a battle. But success does not make the Sigma. Could he not have been an Alpha? Definitely not. He had no great charisma. He was not loved by either his men or his officers, since he regularly hanged the former and harangued the latter whenever they fell short of his high personal standards. He was diffident exacting, stingy of praise, viciously sarcastic, and openly despised everyone whom he felt was less than entirely reliable. He even insulted the entire Spanish military hierarchy by vehemently refusing to coordinate any of his actions with any of their generals after being disgusted by the lackluster Spanish performance in one of the early campaigns of the Peninsular War. And yet, this is how one British officer who admitted that he didn't even like Wellington felt about him. "We would rather see his long nose in the sight than a reinforcement of 10,000 men." It is probably unnecessary to point out that the Iron Duke was a complete failure in politics. His brief term as Prime Minister was unremarkable and largely unsuccessful, which should come as no surprise, since politics is an intrinsically hierarchical art. As for intersexual relations, Wellington's behavior was observably that of a high-status gentleman. Quote, although his wife, Catherine Pakenham, was both attractive and unswervingly loyal, the 46-year-old hero of Waterloo cared little for her, claiming only to have married the woman out of a sense of pity. Instead, Wellington lavished his attentions on much younger, attractive ladies. In fact, he spent his time leading up to the famous 1815 battle stealing tender moments with Frances Wedderburn Webster, the striking young wife of Brussels-based British aristocrat. The Duke also carried on a famous long-time relationship with Harriet Arbuthnot, a married socialite 24 years his junior. Although he wrote Arbuthnot endlessly and claimed that she commanded his deepest affection, there is little evidence they were anything other than very close friends. The same cannot be said about the glamorous Italian opera star Giuseppina Grassini. While visiting Paris in 1822, Wellington fell for the 49-year-old contralto, and the two were frequently seen out in public arm in arm. Historical Sigma confirmed. All right, let's do another one from Sigma Game. This one's A Tale of Two Heathers, and then I'll wrap it up. From sigmagame.substack.com, A Tale of Two Heathers, the essential difference between beautiful and cute. Heather is a hot girl's name. This is the immortal and eternal truth for every man of the generation known as X. It was really a rather remarkable situation even at the time, for while there were vast quantities of Jennifers and Amys who ranged the gamut from beautiful to ugly, the Heathers were reliably and relentlessly attractive. I even verified this with my high school yearbook. There wasn't a single plain Heather to be found in it, and 2/3 of them were in the school's top tier. This unusual state of affairs was recognized and memorialized for all time with the release of the now classic 1988 film Heathers, which, along with Weird Science, The Breakfast Club, and Grosse Pointe Blank, really covers everything one might need to know should one harbor any desire to get a handle on Generation X and its cultural milieu. Two of the reasons for this preponderance of hot Heathers were the two most famous of them, namely Heather Locklear and Heather Thomas. Heather Locklear was the more famous, more popular, and the more successful of the two actresses, in part due to her penchant for dating and marrying high-profile rock stars, including Bret Michaels of Poison, Tommy Lee of Motley Crue, and Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi. But while there were copious hours of debate dedicated to which of the two Heathers was the true Heather number one in real life, the two women serve as an excellent metric for distinguishing between the truly beautiful and the merely cute, for serving as a starting point for defining what makes a genuine 10, and even for demonstrating how lower status men tend to overrate lower tier women while ignoring their higher tier counterparts. In short, this post serves as the beginning of the answer to the question that was repeatedly asked in response to the post titled A Controversial Opinion, in which I observed that the classic beauty icon Marilyn Monroe was never an actual 10. The two Heathers serve as a useful starting point because even though Heather Locklear was more famous and more popular, and even though tens of millions of American men consider her a definite 10 At the time, she was observably never more than an 8, even at her best, which is obvious when she is compared to a true 10 from the same era, Heather Thomas. Compare the two headshots. Everything about Heather Thomas on the right is observably of higher quality than Heather Locklear on the left. Her hair is fuller, prettier, and better styled. Her eyes are bigger, brighter, and more striking. Her nose is much more refined. Literally, she has had a very good nose job, and her smile is picture perfect. Her cheekbones are more defined, as is her jaw. She observably has the bone structure of a 10 that always ages well. Heather Locklear looks like a cheap knockoff of Heather Thomas, as if she might have been available at Target for 1/3 the price of the name brand. About the only argument that one can reasonably muster against the headshot comparison is that Heather Locklear's picture is more of a casual candid photo, while Heather Thomas's is a casual studio photo. But that attempted defense doesn't hold up when one compares their swimsuit photos, both of which were obviously taken in studios. Heather Locklear, Heather Thomas. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, Heather Thomas is hotter. But then again, you could say that Heather Locklear's hair is stupider here. Whatever. All right, moving on. It might be shocking to younger readers in the aftermath of the enfattening of America, but Heather Locklear's body was actually what most young women's bodies looked like, with some degree of variation, in the 1980s. What passes for normal today was usually considered that token fat girl or fat guy in our high school classes. Even Heather Thomas's body wasn't completely outside the range of what one would expect to see at the local beach or pool. Notice how neither women exhibit any signs of serious body modification or fitness sculpting. This was the age of aerobics, jazzercise, and racquetball that preceded gym bunnies lifting weight, doing CrossFit, and turning themselves into graffiti galleries. And while one might argue that Heather Thomas's picture has better lighting and is from the photo shoot of her popular swimsuit poster, that's sort of the point. Heather Locklear didn't have a swimsuit poster because she couldn't sell swimsuit posters. She simply didn't have the body for it. So what was the secret of Heather Locklear's generally greater appeal to young men, and why is she better remembered today? Did she just choose better television shows? Did she have a better agent? Perhaps. But that doesn't explain why so many young men genuinely preferred Heather Locklear to Heather Thomas in the time of their mutual peak. Perhaps they still do today, for all I know. The answer, I think, can be seen in the comparison below. Okay, so approachability. Heather Locklear looks friendly and eminently approachable, like the proverbial girl next door. Even as a famous and pretty celebrity, she looked like you just might have a shot with her if you ever got the chance to meet her. Heather Thomas, on the other hand, even pre-nose job, looks completely unattainable to the average guy. She's clearly the sort of head cheerleader material who is reserved for the alphas of the world. And the sort of friendliness and potential approachability that Heather Locklear radiated in her youth trumps beauty for most men. Lower status men understandably find approachability to be more attractive to them than actual physical attractiveness, which is why the lower on the SSH1 goes, the more generous the female ratings tend to become. And for some reason, it's not enough for lower status men to overrate the less attractive women. They also find it necessary to denigrate the unobtainable higher tier women, which is the source of the well-known 2 out of 10 would not bang meme. My God. This is Taylor Swift. Somebody's given her a 2. That's retarded. It's literally retarded. In the event that you're not convinced of the truth of these observations, or think that the choices of the images chosen for the comparison between the two Heathers are somehow unfair, this candid picture of the two of them taken together at an ABC event that was a strange sort of televised competition called the Battle of the Network Stars in 1982 should suffice to provide conclusive evidence of the fundamental difference between beauty and merely being cute, being a genuine 10, and is what frankly looking rather like more of a 7 here. I mean, yeah, this picture was cherry-picked, but I get it. We'll delve into this in more detail in future posts on the subject, but an important aspect of the objective concept of female beauty relates to the underlying bone structure. This is where true beauty separates itself from youth, neoteny, approachability, attainability, charm, charisma, style, and other factors that are either subjective or intrinsically short-term, because bone structure lasts a lifetime. This is why true beauty The genuine 10 is far more likely to age well and remain attractive far longer than women who are merely cute or pretty. And it is why how a woman ages must always be factored into how she is rated historically, even at her peak. Oh, shit. Okay, well, you got to give Heather Locklear a break because she pumped her face up with fillers and it looks literally retarded. All right. And if I strike you as being biased in any way, rest assured I am not. In fact, neither of these women was ever even my favorite Heather. For you see, reader, I married one. Ta-da! And that's Vox and his wife, Space Bunny. 99% sure her real name is Allison, and she's obviously extremely beautiful. And, you know, Vox is a very handsome man himself. So, you know, good for him. All right. I think I have done enough reading of Epic Threads for today. Don't forget, go to epicthreads.tv. Angel Paste is going on hiatus. Not sure how long it's going to be. The supplies we have right now are going to have to last you. So go ahead and snap those up. Angel Paste will be coming back. Just be aware, there will be a pause. epicthreads.tv, promo code Shapiro. Buy $150 or more. You get free shipping. There's other stuff at epicthreads.tv there. You can also, you know, kind of bulk up your purchase that way. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Let us pray. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.